Okay, everyone, I'm back, and I'm going to continue working on the Joy to the World mini album featuring that newest Graphic 45 collection. And I've already done a video for the inside cover and page 1, so we're actually on page 2 right now. I'm going to go ahead and sit down. I've got my pages mostly trimmed out. What I decided to do in this video, or in this series of videos, is I'm going to do a little bit of trimming because I'm doing some color blocking or piecing, and I'm actually going to trim those as I go. But we are going to get started on page 2, and then I'm going to let you know I'm rethinking something. So here on page 2, the inside large mat, I chose the signature page from the collection, and I'm actually not going to put it down just yet because I'm having a hard time committing to this because I might want to use this image to layer on the cover, and you only get 2 of each of the design papers in the collection pack. So I'm not ready to glue this down. I may wind up replacing this with something else, but I'll cover that in a video. I'm just not going to do it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the book and then come back and spend some time on my cover and decide what to do here. And then once I decide that, I'll come back and show you what I do here. So having said all that, I do know what I'm going to do for these outside flaps. So I'm going to dry fit and go ahead and get these down. I'm going to sit down because I want to verify that my video was running, and it is. So let's get going. All right, and this looks, I'm going to get a contrast so I can see the edge here. And it looks actually, it's close, but it's a little tight. So I'm going to take a sliver off and open that up just a little bit. And because I did that, I'm going to have to re-ink my edge. Okay, I'm happy with that. Somebody had asked in one of the YouTube comments, or actually sent me an email, asking me what trimmer I use. And I use what's called a Caterpillar Pro. And I've had mine for over 3 years, and I've never had an issue with it. And I've got the first generation, which is a metal base with a printed grid on it. The second generation is a solid body plastic version where they etched the grid into the plastic, or it's part of the mold. And I've heard good things about it. I've not used it, but I'm really happy with the one I have. And part of what I like about it is I'm able to just trim those tiny slivers off. It's a rotary trimmer, and it doesn't bend my paper. It will slice through it, not bend it. And it's self-sharpening, so after 3.5 years, I've not had to make a single investment in this tool. Expensive out of the gate, but well worth it. I've spent hundreds of dollars on Fisker trimmers and been really unhappy with them. They just don't stand up to the test of time, or not if you're gonna, not if you craft like me a lot. So I try to get a mini album out, you know, about every 10 days, and that's a lot of trimming. So this one's held up beautifully. I highly recommend it. I like mine so much so that I actually went trolling around on eBay looking for another one in the previous generation, the original design, which I found. And now I have 2, and I was saying that I keep one in my craft room and one in my dining room, which is my second craft room. And now I don't have to carry it back and forth in between the 2 locations. I do a lot of my trimming and planning sitting in the dining room while my husband's watching TV. And then I do all my video here in the craft room. There we go. And now there is an orientation, so I'm just looking to see that I've got the words going in the right direction before I lay this down. Beautiful. Okay. So the way that this is actually planned is this way. So this is going to be on top. And I don't have it handy. Yes, here's one. Okay, so I'm going to install a bifold card that's going to go directly on top. It's going to get adhered to the top flap. And this isn't the right orientation, but it's going to feature an ephemera card. So there's another flap like this later in the book, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to install this right now. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my papers down before I do that. Just because I don't like them floating around. Okay, I'm going to do some piecing on the bottom, and I have a solid piece on top. So let's start with the top one. That's the easy one. I'll go ahead and dry fit and get this in. All right, it looks good. I'm going to get my glue on. So if you are a subscriber, thanks for subscribing and tuning in and sharing your time with us. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We try to get content out, you know, maybe once a week. I'd like to increase that, but some of these projects are quite hefty, so that's a little bit of a challenge for me. All of our tutorials are free, and if you click just beneath the video box, the screen that you're watching, there's a list of menu items, and one of those menu items is playlist. If you click on the playlist, a list of our projects will come up, and all of the projects are organized by paper collection name. So if there's a paper collection that you are looking to do something with, if you click on that, for example, Joy to the World, it will bring up all the videos in the series of this tutorial. Now you can still search them the other way, which is basically by upload date, but they may be out of sequence. They don't upload the way I think they're going to. So I've created this idea that there's a playlist for each one of the paper collections, and then within that playlist, like I said, you'll find the whole series of all the tutorials, the walkthrough associated with that paper collection. And that makes it easy for you to watch it from walkthrough through completed project. And in some cases, we have multiple projects for a paper collection, and they'll all be there. And we try to differentiate them, not through the name of the collection, but through the size of the album, for example. And there's not a whole lot that have multiple projects, but there are a few. I guess I trimmed this last night, didn't ink it, so I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to do my little ad break here for you. This is a product called Powder Puffs, which I love. I like it because I don't have to have a separate applicator. It's got a sponge, and it's a dry ink, so to speak. It comes off chalk. It comes onto the paper kind of chalky, which I like. I don't want any gloss at all, and I don't like a lot of distressing, at least not on graphic 45, because the paper, you know, it really doesn't need it. But I do like to knock off the white edge of my paper. So I use that. So we have this in our shop. Powder Puffs carries all kinds of colors, but I have found over the years, all I really use are the browns and occasionally a gray. So that's what we have in our shop. And I tend to lean more toward the darker brown. But if you like to distress into the pattern a lot, I would recommend going with a lighter brown. But because I just knock off the white edge, I go with the darker. Okay. All right. I can hear my husband talking to the dog in the background. You know what? I'm not happy with that. It's a little too tight on one side. So I'm going to reposition. And you want to do that as quickly as possible. Glue is not generally very forgiving. All right, that's in. Better. Okay, and as I discussed, I'm not prepared to do anything here. I'm gonna wait and come back and make a decision about this mat. And of course, that's the flip side, so I could do one or the other. There is one more piece. So this piece was not quite large enough to cover this whole surface. So this is one of the ribbons that comes in the collection, and I've trimmed it down, and it's going to cover that last little bit. So when I'm finished, it's going to look like this. Or this, depending on which side I choose. Or even if I use that paper. As a quick reminder, this is a 7.5 by 9.5 album. The pocket pages themselves are 7 by 9. And this is a little different from what you've seen me do in the past, both in the size and also the number of pages. There are 5 pocket pages in this album. And I also created a quick tips video to show you how to figure out your spine and your hinge. So if you decide you want a 6-page, I've gone through kind of the instructions on how you come up with that. And I've tried to present it in 2 different ways because I know everybody looks at things slightly differently. So one way is to just do it mathematically, and the other is to kind of just construct it and then build your measurements, reverse engineer it, so to speak. So it's just a quick, it's not that quick, but it's 20 minutes and it covers in pretty detail how to adjust your spine and page numbers if you're going to design and build your own album, or if you see something that you like of ours but you want more pages, it will show you how to do that. And it will show you how to add the pages and then how each page affects the width of the spine. Okay, so this is now in. I'm going to put this here to preserve it. And that's done. So now I'm going to go ahead and do page 3. And I'm going to remove some of the bulk on the previous page. I'm going to do page 3, and then before we go on to page 4, I'm going to come back and add something here. Okay, quick dry fit. This is probably one of my favorites. There's two prints in here that I really love. This is one. This is the smaller angels. There's another angel page, and the angels are a larger scale. It's also very pretty, but I like the colors in this one better. The other one has more browns in it. This one's more gold. And then the other one is, there's this floral pattern, and I'll have to show it to you. It is just delicious. I love this paper. I could have used more. Okay. Make sure your orientation is right. And I like to lay down the edge first, because that's where your eye is going to get drawn. It's not going to get drawn to the spine. It's going to get drawn to the center and the outside of the book. That's just the way your eyes are going to travel. So if you don't have something perfectly matted, make sure you've got this straight. Everything else, the spine is very forgiving, right? It will hide a multitude of sins. So just make sure you've got that outside edge crisp. So I have to share with you, I made a mistake in the build process of the book, and I actually had you guys glue this entire pocket down. That was a mistake because we need to slide a piece of designer paper in. So I just went through with a spatula and carefully opened it up. It's okay if it tears a little, as long as it doesn't tear through to the back side, because you're going to glue it back down after you put your designer paper in. But if I had been thinking it through originally, we would have left the tab open like I normally do. I don't know what I was thinking. Clearly not thinking. Okay, let's get this in. And yeah, I was just verifying I inked it. I did. I was doing that last night, but sometimes when you have all this paper, especially multiple pages, you think you're getting everything, but it's like a sea of paper everywhere. It's easy to miss something. Okay, I'm going to slide it into the pocket, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure this line is good and what I want before. I can't see top to bottom, so that looks pretty darn good. Press that in place, and now I'm going to glue these flaps back down. And I'm going to try to use as little as possible because I don't want to take up any width of the pocket. All right, that's in. Got a little excess. Turn it over, do the other side. There, that looks beautiful. I'm gonna press that into place a little bit. Okay, so this is the pocket where we're going to be using, that's backwards, 2 of the Graphic 45 tags will go into this pocket like so. These will be covered with designer paper, and I'm waiting to do that at the end too because I don't know what paper I'm going to coordinate with here. I wanted to get all these pieces in and then decide what I was going to do. Okay, so that is done. Now, if you recall, this is also a flap. So we're going to open the flap and get the inside layer. So this is going to be the top layer, like so. And I can see I did not ink it, so we'll be doing that here in a second. I'm going to turn it sideways because I think I might need to trim a little. No, it's the right size. Okay. It looked a little too wide. It looks good. So I think part of why it looks white is because I can see the white edges, which make it look like it's part of the cream cardstock. So I'm going to ink those real quick, and we'll glue this down. Open that flap. And I gotta double check something real quick. Okay, one of the things I'm looking for right here is originally when I did my magnet placement, I didn't know if I was going to color block or use a solid piece. And in the past, when I've changed my mind about that, I've come back and double checked to make sure that my magnet is not going to be exposed between the 2 color blocks, and it's not. If it was, this is the time that I would move it. But I had just basically placed the magnet originally knowing that I want to stay clear of this edge of the flap because I've got to have a little bit for a margin. So that's where I came up with that placement, but it could have fallen further in as well. But right now I just want to make sure that because I'm color blocking, this didn't wind up in the middle, and it's not, so we're good. So I'm good to get this glued down, and I almost put glue on the wrong side. Okay. Here we go. I have to be kind of careful because I have so much bulk in my book. I want to make sure that things are laying down flat before I press them into place. Don't do what I do. Don't clip everything together. Have it set aside, but it really speeds up my teaching process, but it's not ideal for build. Okay, so that's in. So our next piece is this one, and because we're color blocking, I'm going to need to trim some of this. So I'm going to figure out what I need to do right now. So I like when some people like to overlap their color block, and that's pretty and it's easy. It's actually easier. But I really like the look of having that little strip of cream or black, whatever your base is, show through. But like I said, it is much more difficult to be precise, but I like the look and I think it's worth the effort. So I am going to trim it based on, you know, an equal amount of cream exposure as compared to the edges. So it is challenging to hold it in place, but like I said, I think it's worth it. If you're new and you don't have a lot of confidence, then I would recommend the technique that I used here, where you adhere these 2 pieces butt them together, adhere them together with double-sided tape, and then add a softening strip across the top. That's another way to have done this too, is put these together and then put a contrast strip across it, or a piece of ribbon or something. So just a different technique. I wrote my tick mark, and it is so light I couldn't see it. So, okay, I think I can, oh my gosh, it's hard to see. I gotta do it again. Sorry. The print's so busy, my eyes aren't able to see the measurement. Of course, when I lay it down, it's very obvious to me, and then when I come over to the trimmer, it's like, where'd it go? All right, I think I got it. I think I got it. All right, how'd I do? It's almost like I planned it. Okay, I need to ink it, at least on the side that I trimmed. I can't remember if I did the rest. And then that leaves me with this little strip that I can actually put here and then put a contrast in between. I haven't decided. So that's the side I trimmed. No, I haven't inked it, so you guys get to watch me ink edges, which is so boring, I'm sure. All right, so I am looking for some comments on album size. So as soon as I'm done with this, I think it's going to be a little bit before Graphic has a new collection coming out. So we carry a couple of other brands of paper. One of them is Stamperia, which some of you may or may not have heard of. We have some projects done in Stamperia, if you check the playlist. But I'm likely to go to work on a Stamperia album. So I'm curious what size would be interesting to you guys. So I'm looking for the dimension, the outside dimension, and number of pages you guys are looking for. And I will do my best to try to accommodate. I'm gonna go ahead and put some glue on this tape here. So as I'm sliding this piece into place, it won't get hung up on that magnet before I'm ready. I can tell I'm having a tough day because I can't see to get the stem in on the glue cap. All right. That looked good, so I'm going to get some glue on the back of this and lay it down. So at some point, I expect Graphic will come out with a DCE, which is a designer collection edition for Christmas, because they usually have a new Christmas collection and then they pull back one from previous years. So when that comes out, I'll probably do something on that, but they have not announced that yet. So we are kind of in a holding pattern, but I'll do something with that as well. And I might do an 8x8 in that, since I just did this 7.5 by 9.5. It's not sliding like I want it to. Better. Okay, we're in. See how nice that little seam looks? I love it. Not for everybody, but I like it. And like I said, it's much more difficult than just butting the pieces together and then trimming them as though it's one whole piece. That's much, much faster. And you get a much more predictable result. Okay, so the next piece that I have planned is this red. And I keep going back and forth on which side I want, but I think I'm going to do the pattern side to match. And I just flipped it over because this is a small design aesthetic, but this side has mostly white and this has mostly red, and I think the red against the cream looks better than the white against cream. So just little small details like that I always try to keep my eye open for. It looks like I skipped one side. There we go. All right, so I think I did a good job trimming this, yeah, last night. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it in. So that's the other option we have. Well, I guess we have a couple options. We can do that or this. And you know what? I like that better. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put this down and then figure out how I need to trim this. And there you have it, design in process. See, there's no real plan. I just make it up as I go. I think what makes it easy is if you limit the number of patterns that you're trying to use on a page. In this case, it's a couple of patterns and a few colors, right? It's easy to look at it, oh, this or that. But when you have to look at 10 different options, that's when it gets a little overwhelming. Okay, I need to go back and make sure this is not interfering, and it's perfect. So I'm glad I put it where I did because it's working out in our favor. I'm going to get my tape off. I don't know why, but I came in here without my pick tool. And you guys have asked about that too. My pick tool is a Silhouette weeding tool. Silhouette is a die cut machine. Every die cut machine has a series of tools used to pick paper off the sticky mat. I just happen to like I have a Silhouette and I happen to like that tool. I think they're all about the same. Trying to see if this pattern has direction. And it looks like this is the direction. It's very close, so I don't think anyone would notice, but I'm gonna try to do it the right way. So that's what I use. They're readily available. Thank goodness that didn't tear anything. I didn't mean for that to flop forward so much. And that's the one I use, so my nails just don't work for me. Plus it's hard on your nails, but I haven't had good luck with it. I struggle. So when I get ready to do the next page, I'll probably get up and go get my pick tool. Okay, so now we know we need to trim this down since I decided to pull that in. And I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna go away from the spine and look at my distance here and give myself a tick mark on one side. And it's better to be cautious. You can always trim more. You cannot put paper back on. If you wind up short, the best way to solve that is to actually make it quite a bit shorter and then add a strip in between. But I prefer to trim twice rather than have to add yet one more piece of paper. I'm just gonna check. Yeah, I was checking to make sure it was still gonna close and not interfere with the hinge here. And it's fine, so we're ready to put it in. So this one I had inked, but we just trimmed an edge, so I have to re-ink. Add some more ink. It's my last chance. This or this, and I like the solid. Okay, that's in. All right. So now this is, if I recall correctly, I think 4 inches. So it's 4.5. So you can get a 4x6 photo here. And I think actually having pieces in the background make for very interesting mats for your photos to just sit right on top of versus just a solid piece like this. This is still pretty, but I think having these color blocks make for an interesting collage behind your photos. So, okay, so as you recall, we have this nice pocket, which we'll put something interesting in. And I plan to put ribbon on top of both of these. And then also taking a design cue from Christine. She loves to add her charms to her tags. I'm going to do that too. So there'll be some charms added to both of these tags. And if you buy the bundle from us, you will get the same number of charms and most likely the same charms, but occasionally we run out and have to substitute. So I think most of you have already bought the collection, so you're probably all set. Okay, so that's it for page 2 and 3, and then one more thing on page 2. We are going to come back and add this bifold card. And so right now, because of the placement of this young lady, this angel, I don't like the card high because it's exposing too much of her. If I'm not going to show her face, I'm going to go ahead and cover a good portion of her. So the other option is to put the bifold card in this way. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to check that first. So I've got a couple of options for ephemera here. If I go horizontally, I think that's too light. And this is obviously the same print, so we don't want to do that. There is an option. I'm not crazy about it. This is an option, and I don't like this. It's too bold. It takes away from our angels. And I think that's it. I think those are my only options horizontally, except for this, which is way too bold for, it just distracts too much from these two. So now I'm starting to rethink that. Okay, so the other option would be to put a smaller bifold with, I think I like that. Okay, I'm gonna retrim this to fit the smaller ephemera. I'm sorry, my words aren't coming. And I'm gonna look at one horizontally. Ooh, I like that one. That's pretty. So that would open up and down. And this would open side to side. I like it. What do you guys think? I'm gonna do it. Okay, so let me trim this down real quick. 3, and do I want it side by side? I do. Okay, there we go. So that's what it looks like. So right now, I'm not ready to commit this to, and I'm gonna go ahead and clip it here as a placeholder. Finish, keep moving forward on the album, and then come back as part of the embellishment phase, make a final decision on what this will be, whether I'm gonna stick with the small or go with the larger, and I'll cover that as part of the embellishment pieces. Okay, so that means these 2 pages are done. And additionally, as part of the embellishment, I will come and cover the tags. But again, I'm still trying to figure out what paper is going to be left over. One of the things I did notice, though, interestingly enough, is you can actually use the ephemera cards in the die cut and they will fit on the tag. So you have to be careful about the placement of the grommet, but you can actually use these and die cut them down. And that was kind of what I was planning to do on the covers, and then put some coordinating paper on the back. Okay, that is that. And I'm gonna go ahead and take these out now so I can get this to lay flatter. Okay, more angels. More angels. Okay, so this is a bifold card that I'm planning on putting on top. I'm going to set that aside for now. And then this is a pieced front. So we have one large mat, and then I have this gold strip that goes on the side, and it's meant to pick up the gold on the other side, which is actually behind the cover. So that is where I'm headed. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to tuck these in here so they're not floating on me. I'm going to start by cleaning up my space so I can make some design decisions. When everything gets too cluttered, it's hard for me to make a decision. All right, so we're going to start by placing this one, I think. If I can turn it, yeah, there we go. All right, so this should go here. And then I've got a gold strip that goes right on the other side. And I've mentioned this before, but when you're blocking like this, it's always easier to take a sliver off the large piece because it's easier to hold in the trimmer than to try to take a 3/8 inch and trim it down. So I'm doing dry fitting to see if I need to trim anything. And if I do, like I said, I'm going to trim it off the large piece, not the 3/8 inch. It's too hard to hold it in the trimmer and have it behave. And I think I did a good job last night, and I think I'm ready. But I'm going to start by laying the thin one down and then dry fitting the large piece again, because that'll give me my last chance to potentially trim it down if needed. And this has been inked. When I first started doing this, I don't know why I had it in my head I needed to adjust the size of the skinny strip, but man, that is really time consuming and hard. Once you get under, at least with my trimmer, once you get under 2 inches, it's pretty hard to manage holding the paper and preventing it from torquing in the trimmer. So I don't know, somebody probably mentioned this in a video somewhere, but I can't remember when I came to the conclusion or how I learned it, but I'm sure it wasn't my idea. I'm sure I got that tip from somebody with some experience. So that's in, and I'm just reorienting. I know that this is the upside. I want to make sure I get my angels in right side up. And you know what? It's a good thing I'm dry fitting, because I do think I need to take a sliver off because I don't have a consistent gap here between the two. So I'm going to take a little bit off. And check it again. And there we are. And so for those of you that want to know how much I took off, I dropped it. I'll show you. But I would probably guess it's a 32nd of an inch. It's a tiny, tiny bit. And that's what's great about this trimmer, is that's a very easy thing to achieve off a large piece of paper. You can, you know, shave off one little bit at a time. But if you're trying to do that on something that's less than an inch wide, forget it. Not happening. Ooh, I'm gonna go back and tell you a couple of things I just thought of. So this is a question that comes up. How do I know when you're using 12 by 12 pattern paper or 8 by 8 pattern paper? So I'm gonna go point that out. Of course, you don't have to do what I'm doing, but I will share with you what I've done so far and try to be mindful moving forward of mentioning that as I'm going along. Oh, I did it. I forgot to ink that edge. Oh well. It happens. Can I fix it? Can she do it? I don't know if I can get it up. Yeah, I can. I'm gonna ink it real quick. I can't live with it. That's the side I just trimmed. That's why I forgot it. There. Okay, it looks like it's still holding, so that's good. So that's the cover, and I do have a plan to put a bifold here. And I know it's covering a lot of the pattern, but I think that's just too much of one thing. So I'll come back to that in just a minute. Okay, so that's in. Now I've got some more piecing that I'm going to do here, but before I move forward, I'm going to tell you. This is patterns and solids, This is 12 by 12. Everything you see, no, not everything. This is patterns and solids. Of course, that's a piece of ephemera. This is an 8 by 8, and this is also an 8 by 8. So these smaller patterns on the smaller flaps are 8 by 8s. 12 by 12 patterns and solids, 12 patterns and solids, Patterns and Solids, and this is also off the 12 by 12 collection. There's always a page where you can cut out strips. 12 by 12, Patterns and Solids, Patterns and Solids. So that's what I have so far. This is 12 by 12. This is a pattern and solid, pattern and solid. And then of course I'm going to integrate some ephemera. Patterns and Solids, 12 by 12, 12 by 12. That's what I've got so far. And I'm going to go ahead and get this piece down. Dry fit real fast. Good. I'm good. Got a little white tag there, so got it. Got it. That is in. Okay. This is the next piece. And I have trimmed it so that it's a little bit larger than I need, and I'm just sticking the excess inside the pocket. This pocket is a wider pocket than the other one, and the reason I did that, I know I mentioned it, but the reason, oops, I almost did it upside down. The reason I did it is because it actually has a closure, so I know what's in here won't fall out, and I left it deliberately wide so I can get lots of ephemera in there. And photo mats. On the other side where the tags are exposed, because I wanted the tag to be the design element, I needed that pocket snug so that those tags don't try to slide out on their own, because there's nothing on top of them holding them in place. So that's why I use two different techniques in this book. You could use a wider pocket, but then you have to worry about things sliding out. There's a little bubble there. All right, beautiful. Not my favorite, but I think it goes really well with this pattern and solid. Okay. I think I'm doing some piecing here, so I'm going to cover my glue up and give myself a little bit of time to figure this out. And I think this is what I initially had planned. Yes. Okay. I was looking at it this way, which is an option. I don't think I like it as much. Let's see. I think this just flows better, so that's what I'm sticking with. It's hard for me to use the solids for some reason. Even though I think this looks better, it's just not my tendency. I'm like, well, there's a pretty pattern on the other side. We should show that. But I'm getting better. I'm getting better at trying to incorporate more of the solids, because I do think too many patterns can distract, and then none of the patterns get the appreciation they deserve. So by adding in some solids, I think you go a long way towards emphasizing the one pattern paper that is exposed. Okay, beautiful. Did you see that? Did you see that? I did that last night. Oh, that's awesome. It's rare, but I love it when it comes together like that. That's pretty good. I'm pleased with that. All right, let's get some of my extra stuff. Burnish this in place with my hand. I crank this around sideways. Okay, so that is all the main pages for page 4. I'm going to do a design element here. I don't know what it is yet. Okay, so now we are on to page 5, page 5. And I'm doing a solid piece here, and this is a lot of pattern, I know, but one of the reasons I can get away with it here is there'll be a flap there, and then the design feature on this page is 2 more tags that actually get installed here. So when you open it, you really don't see as much of that green as you do otherwise, as you would otherwise. So these are going to get installed like so, and I'm really struggling with this because originally I had planned, I think, for 3 tags, and I found I was short 1 because you get 9 tags and I needed 10 for the album. So I'm going back and forth on as whether I'm going to open up 1 more tag or try to center these so that you don't have to purchase a second tag package. And I think that's what I'll do. I'll center this. Yeah, the other option would be like this to come all the way across, which I like also, but like I said, it means 2 tag packages. If tags were not an issue, I would probably have 4 tags because 4 fits across the span of the page perfectly. And I would line from the hinge over. So the other thing is I'm trying to decide if I want it to open out or in. And I think I like it this way. But I'm not sure. Probably because of the width of the grommets, they take up quite a bit of space. Actually, it would be 3 tags fits better. The 4th tag kind of hangs over. The grommets are kind of tall, and with the width of the other page, I think it'll actually lay down, when you close the page, it'll lay down better this way. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay them down this way. And I'm going to do 2, so we only have to use 1 pack. I'll start with laying this down, which needs to be trimmed. Sorry about that. Just put it anywhere, right? Okay, that looks good. I'm going to get rid of some of the bulk back here. These paper clips and tags create a lot of bulk. Okay, there we go. All right, that looks good. I'm going to ink it and lay it down. I like the way this turned out. I like doing this where there's a matching ribbon on each side. I think it looks impressive. It's not that hard to achieve, but it's pretty to look at. Okay, I'm going to go over it one more time, but this is a pattern in solid, so it's obviously a 12 by 12. I guess it's not that obvious. It's obvious to anybody who does graphic. I'm just looking for any possible interference. That looks good. Okay. Now, what did I have planned here? Where are my papers? Here they are. Some more of the angels, and then I've trimmed out a piece of green cardstock, which I like. And then here, I'm not sure what I'm doing. So bear with me for a second. So I've got a couple of options. Can add a strip. And I think there's a green strip that I want to use. Huh. And I don't see where it is. So somewhere there's a strip like this that's green that I was considering using to marry these two pieces up. So let me see if I can't find that in the sea of paper. Oh, here it is. I'm on top of it. Somehow it fell off the paper. So yeah, I had already trimmed something out. So I've got a couple of options. We can run it here, or we can have that slight bit of cream in between and do something like this. So what do I want to do? Well, first decision is, am I going to use this strip? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to get that strip in, and then I'll build everything off of it. And it's a little bit too wide, so I'm going to take my scissors, because this is really too small to try to put in the trimmer. Okay. And very little glue. And before I do that, let's get some ink on it. It's hard to hold. Okay. So you can tell I'm concentrating because I'm not talking. I can't concentrate and talk at the same time. Okay, that is good. Now we'll get some glue on it. Okay, so as usual, my usual design is whatever the number of pages are, half will have unique designs, and then I'll repeat them. So you'll have the page in the album twice. So page 1 is also page 8. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The designer paper used will vary, but the flap design is the same. And I've done that in this book. The last book I did for Oz was a little different, but similar. But that's pretty much how I normally design my books. I think it brings a symmetry to your album. But you can, make unique pages everywhere, and you don't have to put them in the same sequence I put them in either. But I have to say, when I'm designing, I actually design with a flap and pattern in my mind. So I know I'm going to want one page with a lot of pattern exposed, and then on the other side, I might want to have lots of different moving mechanisms. I don't like to put them both together for two reasons. One, I think it's pattern overload, and the other reason is you wind up with interference when you're opening and closing the book. So if you have too much going on, when you try to open and close the book, they're rubbing on each other, they get caught in each other. So it's something to think about when you're designing your album. Okay, I'm gonna take this down just a bit. And yeah, so I know I'm gonna use this pattern. I'm absolutely gonna use this pattern because it pulls this in. It doesn't look like it, but this is actually part of that same print. The scale looks quite a bit smaller. This is from the center of the 12 by 12, and this is off one of the edges. And I think I like that look. And then maybe a green strip on top is where I'm headed now. That's awfully bold, so I'm waffling. I'm actually going to look and see if I have another piece of this paper that I can trim down to fit. And I do. So is that going to be too much of the same pattern? And I think I'm going to be okay because I've got these flaps down here, but I'm also planning on putting a rather large design element on this side, which will soften that. So I am going to trim something down to fit this space. So I have another 12 by 12. I actually have designed most of the album, and I have, I think, 3, I might as well count while you're here, 2 12 by 12s remaining. Everything else is a pattern in solid. That's my other option that really goes well with this. Eek. Oh, I'm making it hard on myself by rethinking it. Why didn't I plan it that way? I think I might have been planning on putting this on the tags. And does that still work? It does not. So, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to trim this down to fit. Okay, so 6 7/8, that should be the right width. There we go. Now I need the height. There. Can I see it? So this should be right. Let's see how I did. Okay, very good. So another cheat for coming up with the right spacing is push your paper directly and marry it to the paper below. Go all the way up to the edge of the paper and put a tick mark. So in this case, the paper edge was here and it was pushed all the way against this, and then back off 1/8. And by backing off 1/8, I wind up with my 16th inch border. Just a different way to do it. The other way is to just hold it up visually and mark it. And sorry for the diversion, but I actually I like this better. So there we have it. Okay, I think I'm probably approaching an hour, so I'm going to stop here once I get this in. And I should do the backside too. And upload what I have and then come back and finish the rest. It has an orientation and there's a music pattern in the background. It's very faint, but mostly I'm just looking to make sure the flowers are going up, not down. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so that's in. So now I still have these 2 pieces, so I can put them here. And I think I might. I think I will. I think I'm going to. Yep, I'm going to ink it and put it down. And double check to make sure your magnet won't be exposed when you do your piecing. Otherwise, you might want to reconsider what size paper you put here. Okay, if you're a subscriber, you know art glitter glue, art glitter glue, art glitter glue. That's what I use, and I love it. And you know what? I like this even better. So we're gonna go with this side. It's softer, and it just so happens that Merry Christmas is perfectly centered. So we can't let that go to waste. Right? Look at that. Almost like I planned it. Okay, I'm going to turn this around so I can trim this out, figure out what this piece is going to look like. Yep. And I am going to measure the full width and back off 1/8 of an inch like I did on the last one. And this is going to be challenging because it's under 2 inches. So that gets really difficult. And I'm going to do that again because I put a tick mark on the wrong side. There's a little bit of white exposed here, so I want to actually trim the white off. And then I also need to take a sliver here. Okay. Sliver. Where am I at? 1 1/4. Okay, here's another trick. If you're not sure if you've got it perfectly straight, just marry up your 2 ends. And if they're flush, you've got a straight line. So I do that once in a while because I'm always afraid when it's this small, it torques a little and that I don't get a good, crisp, even trim. And in this case, I'm holding it together. As you can see, it is right on the money. So I'm going to ink it and put it down. And we're going to go solid side up. And there you have it. There's our color blocking for this page. Okay, I'm gonna turn everything right side up. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is place, figure out where I'm gonna place my my waterfall flaps, and I'm actually not gonna install them right now, or just yet. I think I'm just gonna eyeball it, figure it out. So it looks like to here. Okay, so it turns out it's nice and easy. I'm actually gonna place it right on this line where the green is, like so. And that looks pretty much centered. And I'm just doing it visually. So I count the number of lines on this side and this side, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so it's halfway through this green one and halfway through this green one. So, oh, you know what I forgot? That wasn't very smart. I put this mat down and I don't have a magnet to hold these in place. So I have to come up with a solution. which I don't have right now. So I'll be back with that. So I'm going to stop here. Since I made a mistake, it's a good place to stop. So I can get my thinking cap back on, figure out how where I'm gonna put those and how I'm gonna keep them in place. And yeah, there's more to come. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I should have had a magnet under here. So, all right, well, I'll be back soon with a solution for that, and I will back you guys up in the video and warn you not to put that down like I did in the previous video. Thanks. For now, this is Daphne. I'll be back soon with some more.